Cosatu's call for the boycott of black like me products is gaining momentum inside the Trade Union Federation. The labour movement is upset with company founder Herman Mashaba over his challenge of sections of the Labour Relations Act. Mashaba and Cosatu's Norman Mampani join me on Newsnight. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. So seemingly at the heart of the spat between the pair of you is the Labour Bargaining Council system, and what powers it has over agreements between bosses and their employees. That's to really simplify the issue. What is the main contention you have with Mr. Mashaba?
Well, as Cosatu emanating from our successful Special National Congress, in the plenary, there was a motion that was tabled on the Free Market Foundation, continued attack on the collective bargaining regime in South Africa. You will understand that they've taken the matter to the South High Court, in which they are arguing that there must be an amendment of some sections where the usage of the word must or may by the Minister of Labour. We believe as Cosatu, collective bargaining structures are established in terms of the ILO labour standards of Convention 98, Convention 154, in order to enhance that in South Africa we should continue to eradicate income inequality. And the attack by Free Market Foundation and Black Like Me, because they are also a face of the Free Market Foundation, we believe it's an attack on the collective bargaining.
All right. Mr. Mashaba, do you think that they have gone too far and they've been too reactive to...
I think it's really quite really sad, Iman. And, you know, as the Free Market Foundation, we lost this case on the 5th of April 2013. Actually, we disappointed with the Minister of Labour and Cosatu, for that matter, that we sit with one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. We sit with an economy that's underperforming. We sit with a piece of legislation, unconstitutional, that has been responsible for the destruction of small businesses in this country. We're now asking the Minister of Labour, and we as a Free Market Foundation are not against the Minister extending the agreements. We're just saying to the Minister, before you extend these agreements, please ensure that you're given the right as an executive in this country, as the Minister of Labour in this country, responsible not only to Cosatu, also responsible to the 8.7 million unemployed South Africans. Make sure that these agreements are fair and equitable. The Minister of Labour is not interested. Cosatu is now threatening the boycotts of Black Like Me. I don't understand what Black Like Me has got to do with this whole issue. We're not, as a Free Market Foundation, against bargaining councils. We're just really against the Minister being forced to extend this agreement. Right, we want a piece of legislation to really change from must to may, so that when the Minister gets these agreements, please, Minister, review these agreements, ensure that they are equitable. They are fair to small business, they are fair to unemployed South Africans.
Let's go down to the issues then, because in the interest of the very little time that we have to really get to the heart of things, why are you taking on the Black Like Me products? Why are you not dealing with the Free Market Foundation as an entity? Hold on, Norman, hold on, Norman. And then on the issue of the proposed amendments, or the languaging that you want changed, or the languaging that the Free Market Foundation is looking and exploring to have changed, it isn't a given yet. This is an exploration in whether or not it's possible. Ultimately, at the end of that process, agencies like yourself and all of the other interested parties will have the power of signing off on decisions made. So where do you see it necessary to target the products themselves?
Iman, 53.3% of workers in South Africa, their wages are determined by employers. It is only 9.2% of workers whose wages are determined in their collective bargaining. And it includes all workers who are producing these T-shirts. This T-shirt was produced by SACTU members, and they donated to the Cosatu Special National Congress to ensure that it becomes successful. It is improper for Free Market Foundation to suggest that when there is an extension of the scope of an agreement, it suggests that it is a collusive kind of an exercise. We believe as Cosatu that collective bargaining structures are established in order to enhance sound engagement.
Don't they evolve?
Kawena, Kamina kind of a situation. We believe this is a blatant attack on collective bargaining regime in South Africa.
You believe
we believe, Iman, in South Africa, we are facing high levels of income inequality, and collective bargaining structures are established in South Africa to ensure that we are able to have
Well, the irony,
work
the
agenda.
irony of the boycott that you're calling for is going to put people out of jobs.
Well, majority of our workers who are buying Black Like Me products, they are using their license that they are getting from employers such as Free Market Foundation, Alice. We believe that workers have expressed a view in the Special National Congress, in the Special Central Executive Committee. Leaders have expressed a view that we must continue to defend collective bargaining regime in South Africa.
As Norman says, Mr. Mampane says that you're exploiting black people.
Iman, this court case, it's about the constitutionality of Section 32 of the Labour Relations Act. Now, what I need to understand from Cosatu, do they really believe that piece of legislation complies with our constitution? That's a question that, that they need to really tell this country. Is that piece of legislation constitutional? Iman. Because that's a reason what we're saying is that we cannot allow a situation in this country where we allow unconstitutional piece of legislation to really be in our constitution.
Well, Iman, now question. Would you like to take that on head on?
They filed affidavit by one of our affiliates, SACTU. In it, they show elements that the section that they are contesting stands the constitutional test.
Then that is great.
The Labour Relations Act
arrange to go to court tomorrow.
Says workers have got the right to collective bargaining. Workers have got the right to bargain for better wages.
Beautiful.
If it's an attack on the very same kind of...
If it's beautiful, if Cosatu believes this piece of legislation, it's not constitutional. So what they must do, allow our courts to actually make the determination. So the sooner we can go to court, an open court of law in this country, where South Africans, the 8.7 million South Africans, the small businesses that have been destroyed by this piece of legislation, let them be given the opportunity for the Free Market Foundation to present their case. Let them present their case, and our courts in this country can make the determination.
To be tested in a court where all of us can benefit from it.
I'm happy Mr. Mashaba is wearing a red T-shirt because he was, grown up by a domestic worker, her mother. So we must understand in South Africa we are facing a challenge that majority of our workers are working people who are poor on the basis that the cancers that they are arguing that should not be extended. Majority of those workers, Iman, listen to me first.
Mr. Mampane, no.
Those workers are facing precarious conditions.
That is true, but if we create judgments on the sidelines of a courtroom, where does that really take us? Calling for the boycott of a product, for example, without allowing the court to make a determination or ruling, do you not believe that that will be detrimental in the long run to people, for example, who are in the employ of Mr.
It's a persona of an attack on collective bargaining regime in South Africa.
But questioning a piece of legislation.
No. Our argument as Cosatu, we are saying, one, collective bargaining is a necessary regime in South Africa to ensure that workers have got the leverage.
Does it not really violate the rights of unemployed South Africans? Does it not violate the rights of...
Cosatu continues to campaign for better and decent work for everyone.
Mr. Mashaba is putting to you, does it not violate the rights of those who are unemployed?
There's no violation, Mr. Mashaba.
Okay, then Norman, let's give our courts an opportunity to really make the determination.
The court process.
I think as South Africans, I expect you as Cosatu, as part of the government, because you're a senior member of government. You're supposed to actually
with the ruling party,
you're supposed to be a role model in this country to ensure that we respect our constitution. When you have civil society like ours really having an issue with our constitution, you're supposed to be the first one.
Amen. But undermining of ILO standards, which are universal in South Africa, will be to the detriment to the working class.
The point really is to be made is that if there is a piece of legislation in the country which either party is uncomfortable with, that goes to court. That really is the place to ventilate some of the arguments that you're mentioning. I mean, these are serious things. Talking about the International Labour Organization, some of the standards that are set for bargaining council, the way that they operate, some of the, as I said, the standards. So this is, that would be the arena in which to test. Based on that, though, you have said, and you've agreed this evening, we've seen reports earlier saying that you're calling for the boycotting of the Black Like Me products. You seem to be unfazed by the calls for a boycott?
If the Cosatu believes by boycotting Black Like Me will help our economy to progress. They will help small businesses to actually not be destroyed by this piece of legislation. If they can help the 8.7 million South Africans get employment and actually at the same time help their members get more money, they are most welcome to do that. But one thing for sure for us as the Free Market Foundation, we're not going to stop until such time that this matter is heard in an open court of law.
Do you think it's prudent, Mr. Mampane, to hold off on the calls for a boycott until the court makes its decision?
No. We're supporting the court process. But what we are challenging, Free Market Foundation says they want to challenge collusive agreements. We believe when agreements are signed in collective bargaining councils, they are mutual agreements in which parties, bargain for what should be the final agreement. Indeed, is to undermine the competent authority of those authorities in mediation, conciliation, and arbitration.
And your colleagues, as part of government, to use our courts to actually make
No. Here is a filed affidavit of Cosatu, representing more than 85,000 workers. They are challenging all the arguments that the Free Market Foundation is tabling before the court as respondents.
Can I ask you here in front of the country, can you speed up with your colleagues to ensure that this matter goes into an open court of law in this country for South Africans to be given an opportunity to really listen to the merits of what the Free Market Foundation is all about?
Iman, we are ready for that. We are speaking to our members to understand that the collective bargaining regime as an universal labor standard must be protected, and it must start to ensure that we defend those who attack the regime, which is set to ensure that we are able to enhance income.
Perhaps not just myself, but perhaps other South Africans are not too clear on exactly why there is such major contention. I mean, if I read section 32 of the LRA, and this is the piece of legislation that's in contention, the bargaining council can ask the labour minister to extend an agreement, for example, on wages or working conditions to those who are not party to it. You're wanting it to be an imperative rather than a discretionary.
The Act right now says the Minister of Labour, once these agreements are signed by Cosatu and big business, the minister must extend. So we're asking this must to change to May, so that the minister, before extending these agreements, please review them to look at.
In other words, you'll give him discretion.
Yes, and we're not against that.
Still with the oversight of the other parties.
Absolutely, we're not against the minister extending.
Does that seem unreasonable?
Well, Iman, you will understand that the majority of workers in South Africa were saved by sectoral determinations, in which majority of them are earning peanuts. And we believe that the minister's discretion has got no problem, but an attack on a labor standard that is set to ensure that there is sound management of consultation and negotiation between bosses and workers.
But then what about the rights of small business in this country? What about the rights of small business in this country? What about the rights of 8.7 million?
No, it's fine. Iman, there are provisions in all the councils that those that are unable, they are able to be given the necessary mechanism to cope up. We believe that such kind of mechanisms should be enhanced. We are not attacking small business enterprises, but they must ensure that they respect labor laws in South Africa.
You say that you're prepared to see this court action all the way till the very end, as are you. When does it go back to court?
We're determined. Unfortunately, I think we always encounter delaying tactics. It's already 2.5 years. Every time there's one excuse after the other as to why we cannot.
And who's holding up the process?
The Cosatu and the Minister
of Labour. You say that there's
no, there's nothing like that. Here is a filed affidavit by Cosatu, in which as Cosatu, we are supporting the intention to challenge the so-called collusive agreements that are geared towards collapsing small business. Is a fuss.
If the boycott goes ahead, how under threat will your business be?
Well, we cannot really be threatened by such action. So I think everyone in this country, we live in a constitutional democracy. It's up, if Cosatu believes it's the right way for them to do this and they act in the national interest, okay, we cannot really stop them. But one thing for sure is we cannot really be threatened and we cannot really stop them. I think we want them to exercise that democratic.
Workers are ready to go on the street to ensure that they defend collective bargaining.
All right, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Gentlemen, thank you very much for talking to us on Newsnight. Black Like Me founder Herman Mashaba and Cosatu's acting spokesperson Herman Mashaba.